Okay, we are live Sunday. Gonna catch up for yesterday, Infinite Plane Saturday. So this is Infinite Plane Sunday, 10/6/2024. A very important anniversary. This is the anniversary of the release of Modern Warfare 3, a game in which millions were immersed in a simulated combat war zone, only to wake up on 10/7 to have the quote real thing happen on TV. And I would consider video games such as that and the timing of the releases to be part of the programming. Just like that video game Black Myth, which I'll quickly bring up on Wikipedia, where the characters play, it's called Black Myth Wukong, where they play the role of the monkey god. And this game was released at the same time as the monkeypox was declared and a 90-foot monkey god statue was erected in Houston. And this game broke records for the most number of concurrent players when it comes to live streaming. In other words, you had millions of monkey god or monkey king avatars, which is what you are when you're playing a video game. None of this is unconnected from the bigger story, but we're just catching up. So let me go ahead and see how many people. We usually wait till we get about 3 dozen, so we're close. What's up, Ted Stryker? Yes, Infinite Plane Saturday was kind of pushed to the side. I'm rehabilitating my eBay store, filling it up with watercolors, and it's open again. And I think it's going to do everything that it needs to as far as bringing in revenue for the publication. Sales have been good. All right, so let's go ahead and go through the notes. A couple of things. Musk spoke yesterday alongside Trump at his return to Butler rally. And look at this. This is an example. When I say psyops imitate art, and then, of course, life imitates psyops. So this is a cover of the New York Post. 20,000, now this doesn't count the live viewers, 20,000 witness Donald Trump's triumphant return to Butler. And it says Braveheart. Now, look at Braveheart, the movie poster. Blue paint on the right side of his face. Now look further. Trump in the Braveheart pose. And we remarked on this on 7/13, that he was doing the Braveheart pose. But we had already connected him to Braveheart, and I made that association because of his Truth Social avatar, which is the Braveheart face paint. And there's more in this. If you count the stars, you got 9. You have 2 red stripes, so it looks like 9/11 on his face. And we had been talking about the significance of 9/11 and him getting shot on the right side of his head, and how his hat has 4547 on it. You add those, you get 9/11. So we were talking about the 9/11ing of Trump's head, and the bullet whizzes by his ear. The photographer who had the image of that bullet whizzing by Trump's ear also photographed on 9/11, another connection, also photographed George Bush as they were whispering into his ear that we were under attack. The whole thing is scripted. It's theater. This is stagecraft. And the Braveheart Association was planned long in advance. You also have to add in here that Mel Gibson directed Passion of the Christ with Jim Caviezel. Caviezel, I spell it with a Q. Jim Caviezel is 33. He died on the set of the filming of Passion of the Christ. He was struck by lightning on the 5th take of Sermon on the Mount. But they resurrected him, if you believe that. And Jim Caviezel later became famous for playing the role of human trafficker Tim Bellard, who pretends to rescue trafficked children. And that Sound of Freedom was said to be very popular, more popular than the latest Indiana Jones, but truthfully, I went and saw it. The theater was empty, and the company that produces it, Angel, allows you to buy tickets for other people. So I think what they're doing is they're having rich donors, essentially, buy empty seats. That's what I think's happening. Sort of like how nobody read Donald Trump Jr.'s book, Triggered, but somebody, probably him, purchased many, many copies and had them stashed into storage units around the country. I mean, that's how they get on the bestsellers list, and then they later get pulled and they say it's because the liberals are suppressing us. No, it's because you gamed the system. But that's what we're looking at, a rigged system. It's gamed. They created this association with Trump, Braveheart, And if you analyze the Braveheart character, you do get a bit of, I guess, Christ typography. He's sort of crucified at the end. They rip his guts out. He sacrifices himself. There's quite a lot here to get into, but the main thing here, again, Braveheart, Mel Gibson, major QAnon person. I mean, I think Trump saw him at an MMA fight, and Mel Gibson nodded to him, and the QAnoners said, if you know, you know, which means they think they know something. But they think Gibson's one of theirs, because at one point he had ranted about some anti-Semitic rant when he was pulled over drunk. So he's one of theirs. But anyway, Braveheart, Trump, New York Post, meta-scripted reality. This is all art. We're living in season 37 of The Apprentice. Now this is funny. So here's Trump talking about Corey Comparator. Now the reason why they had to kill Corey is that if they didn't have somebody dead, people could call it fake. They could say you didn't really get you didn't get shot in the ear. That was a magic trick. That was ketchup. The Secret Service took you through a McDonald's drive-thru on the way to Butler. You requested an extra ketchup packet. You squibbed it on your face. Like, you could say all kinds of things. You could make fun of it, but now you can't because you have a martyr and he died and his family's crying on TV and they have a GoFundMe. And then Trump makes out with the fireman's helmet. Like, this is theater and it's grotesque. It's grotesque. But here's Trump talking about how not only was Corey a great guy, but he had the best seats in the House.
One little story, Helen told me that on the day that they came to the rally, Corey was really excited because somebody gave him great seats right up front here with the people from North Carolina, the lady.
But there are many people on the left who want to call this a hoax, but they can't out of sensitivity to the dead guy, which is evil. If you think I mean, it's an evil thought to consider here that, yeah, they did a hoax, but they actually killed somebody. Like, that's like dark. That's dark, that you're going to kill somebody for a few votes and do it in front of the country with impunity. No, Occam's razor, nobody died. It's a magic trick. It was like WWE. It's like, no, they couldn't pull that off in front of an audience. Oh, really? Ever heard of blading? World Wrestling Entertainment has been cutting themselves and surreptitiously cutting themselves and passing it off as real injuries for decades. That's why WWE Hall of Famer Hulk Hogan alluded to this. There he is at RNC talking to Trump and saying how back in Hulkamania his face was bloody and he was looking down at Trump, and now the situation is reversed. And then Trump blew him a kiss. From one WWE Hall of Famer to another, it was basically, yeah, we were brothers of the blade. Like, they know how to, that they're both behind the scenes cutting themselves. They did the same identical stunt. It's like, I cut my forehead and I bled in Hulkamania. You cut your ear and you bled at Trumpomania. And these aren't coincidences, especially when Hulk Hogan was like, I just remembered this. This just came back to me. No, it didn't. None of us are fooled. And he's like, enough is enough when you shoot the president. And if you look at the Illuminati playing card, it's called Enough is Enough. Diana South says, maybe ketchup heals wounds. Well, look, I'm 100% behind the idea that Trump faked it. I can't tell you if it was ketchup, fake blood. I don't know anybody with MAGA hats. If you know somebody with a MAGA hat, ask if you can squeeze it between the 45-47 and see if anything comes out. Because I have a feeling that they will squib out a little bit of fake blood. Or maybe it's a special hat you have to order. You know, they should sell squib hats alongside the Trump 45 shot glass. You seen those? And these came out way before Trump was shot. They've been selling these for a long time. It's a shot glass, which is weird because he's a teetotaler. He doesn't drink. But for years, they've been selling this signature. It's signed Donald Trump shot glass with a 45 on the side of it. Like, that's crazy. I mean, today especially, it'd be like selling a JFK shot glass with like 3 AK-47s or 3 rounds from 3 different directions, like embedded in the shot glass. It's in poor taste. Very poor taste. But why? He's not even a drinker. This makes 0 sense. But now it makes perfect sense. Foreshadowing. But anyway, he should sell this alongside a MAGA squibby hat. And if anybody thinks this is real, I just have to say you haven't researched it, you're not paying attention, and you don't know what you're looking at, and you're confused. You're by definition confused if you conflate fake news with reality. You're confused if you think wrestling is real. You're confused if you are what I would call an MSM literalist. And that's okay. Billions and billions are confused. They think the model is the territory. And then those who see through it, mostly truthers, truther leaning, they tend to question it, and they arrive at the idea that no, the model does not match reality. So they become conspiracy theorists, and when they arrive at the more unexplainable coincidences, then they kind of veer towards Mandela effects and simulation theory. All of which is designed to nullify them. Because if your conclusion at the end of the day is everything is so rigged, we must be in a simulation, you're no longer a threat. You're no longer a critic with any standing, because now you're in a land of subjectivity and confusion. Like, I'm not confused. I'm not confused about what's real and what's not real. But simulation theorists are very confused. Normies don't know they're confused. The unconfused are the deprogrammed. And it requires a bit of skepticism and objectivity. And there are neither of these in the MSM box. What's up, Lord Laney? Yes, today, Sunday's sermon is really just a catch up from yesterday. Yesterday, I wasn't able to I was here in the office, but I was actually cleaning, rearranging, and it's amazing. I dig through some boxes and I find I had so many pens. I accumulate pens and brushes. I don't need to go to the art store just once in a while. I just need to rifle through these boxes. I have hundreds of small paintings that I have yet to list. And I'm thinking a lot of them are kind of Halloweenish, so I might put some effort into it. But no, we're back on, and I'm expecting to have more and more time as things move forward. I did not get hired at the call center for some reason. I'm not sure why. Why wouldn't a call center hire me? I'm trying to figure out what red flags am I setting off. I'm dressed nice. I mean, that interview was like a conversation. It wasn't even an interview. There were no awkward silences, and I had relevant work experience for everything they brought up. I'm not really sure. Somewhere I'm blackballed. I don't know how. I have some suspicions. Okay, so again, Trump shouts out Corey Comparator, the guy with the best seats in the House, which is funny again, because if you remember, that he's the guy who got shot. So one thing here, Musk has done a few strange things. So there he is at the Trump rally, standing behind Trump, and he's jumping up and down with his arms up, like touchdown, which could be what he's referring to. But there's more. He calls himself a dark MAGA. Now, MAGA means witch. And he's wearing a black hat. And again, this is the guy who's going to put chips in everybody. And, speaking of this reminds me of something. Do you remember all the stories about Neuralink and testing on monkeys and killing monkeys? That ties in to 28 days later and 28 years later, which is being filmed right now. But 28 days later about the rage virus, where the monkeys watching violence on TV become violent, and it somehow becomes a virus that can be transmitted through body fluids. So the rage virus narrative then ties in the ape to the visuals on TV. What you see on TV causes you to go crazy. And then I reference here Jordan Peele's Nope, starts off with this chimp that rips a bunch of people apart. And he says Nope was inspired by the George Floyd spectacle. So people saw the thing on TV, and then they tore stuff apart. The rage virus. This also ties into the Jordan Peele produced movie Monkey Man, which came out on 3/11, the virus day. And it's about a guy in a monkey mask who takes a lot of beatings as a boxing sideshow act, and then one day he just explodes with rage. Then we can tie into this Planet of the Apes, King Kong, a number of instances of the raging ape thing, but it's all been connected, again, to disease X, to mind viruses, and specifically you have Musk as the one who opened the floodgates to this with X. So the mind virus that triggers violence, and this has been a reoccurring theme for some time, and they really kind of honed in on it with the guy who shot up the bowling alley Richard Card. And in that one, interestingly enough, one of the witnesses was holding a globe bowling ball, just like the one Michael Moore had on Bowling for Columbine. It's the same agenda. I called it Bowling for Lewiston. I actually had an article about it. But again, what I'm getting at here is that we're looking at Musk. Let me go ahead and play this clip. Calling himself Dark MAGA, and he's the one who's releasing the rage virus, symbolized by the raging monkeys. And one more thing, the guy who directed 28 Days Later about the rage virus, well, he wrote it, directed Civil War. And what is Civil War about? Rage viruses, media-born messaging narratives that trigger the right wing, and you have this big civil war. That's really the start of it. So it's highly significant that Musk is here with Trump.
Hi, everyone. As you can see, I'm not just MAGA, I'm Dark MAGA.
Dark MAGA. Yeah, yesterday was 10/5, and the only thing about 10/5 was JL had noticed that 84 days from the shooting, he's going back to the same place. That's one connection. The second connection he made, there's a few. I think it had to do with the Rocket Man. But anyway, he had pointed this out before Trump scheduled this. So the significance of Trump going back to where he was 84 days later speaks for itself. This is not a prophecy. These are not guesses. It's like you're watching a movie or you're reading a novel. You predict the end based on what you've read. You're looking at the foreshadowing and you figured out some of their tricks. Yeah, it's not prophecy. This isn't, I mean, like I'm not a Bible person. I'm not a believer. I think that belief, as Crow 7777777 says, is the enemy of knowing. I'd rather know. And believers always act like they have some kind of clout. And it's like, yeah, you might believe I'm going to hell or whatever. And to be honest, I think it's funny. You know, someone told me I was going to hell, and I'm like, what does that mean? Like, in a few years or maybe tomorrow, I'm going to wake up in some damp, cold cave in hell. Some big goat-headed demon thing's going to chop my head off. Make me watch while it does bad things, you know, eats my body. I mean, what is it? What is this stuff? It's comical. It's like demons. You're squatting on a pitchfork next to Satan in hell, and there's fire everywhere. It's a joke. I can't take it seriously, and I don't even think it's biblical. So I'm not really a believer in hell in that sense. But I want to point out that nobody here has any direct knowledge on this stuff, and so it's all conjecture. If I find evidence that steers me otherwise, sure. But I don't want to conflate what we're doing with false prophets. And there are plenty of false prophets we can point at who don't make any sense, who are making claims out of fallacious reasoning. Even the guy who predicted the Trump head wound, the Biggs or whatever, claimed there were mountains behind Trump. There's no mountains in Butler. He had many predictions that were wrong. So, in other words, yeah, let me go ahead and open up phones. JL's here. The significance of the event at this time, at that place, speaks for itself. And I can add on to it, Megalopolis comes out. The face of Megalopolis is a Trump proxy. Not only that, but he's the face of White Noise, which is about Palestine, Ohio, 42 miles from Butler. So the connections speak for themselves. Nobody here is trying to claim that this is prophecy in the sense that if we're not right on this date, our credibility shot and we should be punished for it or whatever. I mean, I think we should, like, this isn't Bible study. It's not my thing. I'm more interested in the script, and it happens to use many elements from literature, from mythology, from the Bible, science fiction. It's very multi-faceted, and it's designed to appeal to traditional and progressive world views. So there weren't any predicted events for 10/5. 10/5 was a consistently timed event and scheduled event that comports with everything we've been talking about. I'm just saying at this point, we've already made the case for predictive programming. The only thing worth pointing out here is that the pattern is there. There is a structure where there should not be. It's not random. You realize that fake news isn't just fake news. Fake news is fake history. Because what do you think news is? Look back to the last 30 years of news. What did you see? A lot of fakery, but it's going into the history books. Infinite Plane Radio.
Hey, dude, this is Jurassic.
Hey, what's up, Jurassic? Yeah, yesterday, Musk at the Trump rally. Lots to talk about. What else do you have to add about this date?
Dude, do you understand the incredible things that happened yesterday? So that's why I'm just shocked that you didn't even catch it. This is incredible. So, you know that, hold on one second. I want to be able to
Sure.
open up your screen too. That way I can see something. Hold on one second.
Yeah, I want to
All
say,
right.
look, in my opinion, your methodology has been vindicated. Like, this isn't a debate at this point. We're just listening to the facts that you provide. If anybody is like trolling in the chat, they're just not paying attention or they have an agenda.
Right.
So anyway.
Yeah, but wait till you hear this. This is just going to shut their mouths forever. But now watch this. So remember, I told everybody that there would be some type of Rocket Man event or just some event connecting to my prediction.
Yes,
with
yes.
Trump
You
and
specifically said Rocket Man 1 and 2. So now I'm getting the connection. So go ahead.
yeah. So and then the very next day after I did the Rocket Man video stating there would be something on 10/5 connecting to Rocket Man and to my two predictions of June 11th and August 4th, the very next day Trump says he's going to be back in Butler, Pennsylvania, right? So so that was already the connection already. Now that he went there, we'll get into the connection. But did you see what he did with the moment of silence?
No, what did he do with the moment of silence? I didn't catch that part.
Dude, it's the most important thing of the whole. Here, let me play it for you because I can't.
Okay. And before you do, I didn't know Musk was going to be there. Did you know he was going to be there?
I didn't know it until like 2-3 days later. I mentioned it.
Right. So there's another Rocket Man connection to all of this stuff is Musk himself being there. Just pointing that out that you've already established, like you're predicting things that based on logical extrapolation from previous events. But go ahead.
Yeah. So you had the Rocket Man there. Would you not consider him Rocket Man?
100%. That's definitely him.
Right. So here, this is what they said. Listen. So what happened was Trump was talking about the guy who died, you know, and what time was he shot? The Comprator guy.
Comprator, was it all at 6/11 or was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, 6/11.
Yeah, it was at 6/11, right? Everything happened at 6/11 when Trump was shot at, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So at 6/11 the time. Now listen, I don't know if you guys can hear this.
This time, it is 6/11, 12 weeks to the minute that the shooting began. I would like to ask everyone to join me in a moment of silence.
So did you hear what he said at the beginning?
Okay, this is good. This is good.
Wait. Let's hear one more time the beginning. What he said. Listen.
This time, it is 6/11.
So he says at this time it's 6/11.
It is 6/11, 12 weeks to the minute that the shooting began. I would like to ask everyone to join me in a moment of silence.
Okay, you know what this reminds me of?
What? Say it.
This reminds me of how a couple of years ago in 2022 on 6/11 you had that BLM and March for Our Lives thing going on, and they're at the Washington Monument. They had a moment of silence, and they called it the Pledge to Avoid, if you recall. And that you had the speaker whose son is named Joaquin, who died at Parkland, who was giving a speech. But there was this moment of silence, and this guy jumps up and he screams, "I am the gun." It was a very bizarre event, but
Right. And lives is Elvis. That was the whole big thing. The fact that it was on 6/11. A guy who looks like me was the guest star of it. And, you know, the guy who looks like me was the guy who was the main guy who was going to, the one you were talking about, the father of the son who was killed, and whose name was Joaquin, right? And
yes.
and
Joaquin,
his
a Joker
son-
reference. Joker reference, yes.
Right. Yeah. And his son was born on August 4th, and he died at the age of 17, which is Ohio 17th state. Trump being shot on August 4th, right? He's going to get his head.
Okay, that's even better. So, looking back, these events have been leading to something, And so that previous moment of silence on 6/11, it just came to mind when you brought up this one. So here's Trump even doubling down on the significance of that number out of his own mouth. And you've been talking about this for how long? And so here he is saying this is 6/11 or at 6/11, 12 weeks ago. And then they ring the bell. That's just ominous. And
Right, and 12 weeks is 7 days. 7 times 12 is 84.
okay, yep,
You-
yep, I see
yeah.
that. I see that.
Yeah.
What a trip. This is
Dude,
interesting.
this is a smoking gun, dude.
It literally
You're talking
is.
about
6/11,
yeah,
84, yes.
Yeah, so he says 6/11, and he was shot at 6/11. So he's talking about the 6/11. 84 days later, after he gets that, and I'm saying the 8/4 is going to get his head wound, and 6/11 is the day Washington gets struck. So you got two, and then they do the bell. When have you seen a bell toll for a moment of silence?
That's what I have not. It rang 4 times. I was counting it. Very
Yeah.
strange. Very strange. This is something else. This is highly ritualistic. And then Musk being there. What do you think of that?
Yeah, and the fact that Musk, the Rocket Man guy, is there, and through the whole thing, he mentioned rockets a bunch of times. Through the whole, you know, if you watch my last live stream, you'll see I played a bunch of clips, you know, and also there was a part. I'm not sure. They did this whole thing. I'm not sure. Let me see if I can play it for you because it's kind of the way it was recorded. It sounded kind of low, but let's see if you can hear it. Hold on. Tell me if it's not coming out right. All of a sudden, you hear this stormy music, and then all of a sudden, the guy starts talking. Tell me if you can hear it.
Okay. Yeah, I can hear that fine.
There are some moments in history that are forever seared into our hearts. Moments when love is died, when joy is shattered by pure terror, when evil seems to triumph over good, and our pride turns to mourning, all in an instant. The bravest among us suddenly fall. Patriots and presidents besieged. A nation stunned to its core. And in the silence of our grief, in the stillness of our prayers, we ask, why? And we may never know. But in our nation's darkest moments, when all seems lost, when the dawn
Okay, it's kind of fading out now, but what is this exactly?
Oh no, I was just saying you should hear what they were saying. It was like a creepy music saying
Yes.
that Trump is going to be like the savior, but at the same time, they were showing Musk on Musk coming in to the because he had just shown up there.
Okay.
It was just
okay.
weird. You had to see it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
again, look, anyone here, just if you're even just like an outsider looking in, for years you've been pointing out this correlation between the 6/11 and the 84, the date August 4th, for a long time, and there's so many connections. But here you are, 84 days from the head wound that you said would occur on 8/4, and he out of his mouth says 6/11. These two things have been side by side. One references a nuke, the other the head wound. And here he is, 42 miles from East Palestine, which has a prediction for the nuke in white noise. And I've been talking about how the character Adam, played by Adam Driver in Megalopolis and White Noise, relates to both of these events. He gets shot in the right eye and recovers in Megalopolis, resurrects, and then he's the face of White Noise, where you have the big nuke thing right there, 42 miles from Butler, Pennsylvania. So like this is undeniable at this point. These aren't like truther rap. This isn't trutherism or truthers, because truthers think everything's real.
Yeah, and of course Butler, Pennsylvania, the initial PB is 216. That's August 4th again, and 416-2 Pennsylvania Butler PB is June 11th, 162nd day. It's all connected, dude.
Yeah.
You know?
In Fallout, Betty Pearson arranges the stolen election thing, and then you see the massacre. They clean it up, and the only drop of blood left is on this little foosball character that looks just like Trump, and it's on the right side of his head before he was shot. And I pointed that out, and I said Betty Pearson, BP 216, which again relates to the 84 to 84, that date. So this is like part of their script. We're looking at like stitching here. This is it's
Right.
connected.
And I have another great connection that happened. So you know that Madonna is connected to Elvis, right?
What are the Madonna links to Elvis?
Well, Madonna was exactly 19 years old the day Elvis died. On Elvis's death day, she turned 19. And you know, I told you the 19 crown. She ends up being the queen of pop, right?
Right. Oh, so she's born on his death date. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And that day, according to her brother-in-law or cousin, the spirit of Elvis went through her that day. If you ask Google, did the spirit of Elvis go through Madonna the day he died, you might see it.
Okay, so that's part of her lore. Very interesting. I had not heard this.
Okay. Now here's the big catch. Her brother just died. They say Friday night, but that might have been after midnight. So he actually died yesterday. Okay, the date. And guess when he's born?
When?
He's born on JFK's death date, and he's 63.
Very interesting. And here it is. Elvis died on this date, 1977, and she felt his spirit had passed out of his body and into hers in Exodus. Fascinating. So yes, she said this. She felt the spirit of Elvis pass through her. Interesting. I had not seen.
Yeah. So her brother. Yeah. So her brother was named Christopher Christ Ciccone, whatever CC again, the CC writer. Get it?
Christopher
And,
Christ.
Well, no, Christ.
Oh,
His name,
Christ.
Christopher.
Okay.
Yeah. So Christopher Ciccone, whatever his name, CC, and he's born on 11/22, 1960. So he's 63. JFK was killed on 11/22/63. Get it?
Yeah, definitely. And
I mean,
that 11/22/63 date, by the way, is the date that Dr. Strangelove was screening, and there's all these Kubrick connections. And I think Huxley died on that date. But anyway, 11/22 coming up is the date the new Marilyn Manson comes out. And as you pointed out, Marilyn Monroe, another 8/4 death connected to JFK. And this is another Marilyn Manson Antichrist JFK connection. I'm looking forward to seeing what that has in it. But this is incredible. The Rocket Man thing is what really stands out to me. Because you had tied in the Rocket Man thing to this date. I've been talking about it. And I got the stuff with Elton John and the dictator who's born on Elvis's birthday. I did not expect Musk to personally show up, and he brings with him a lot of symbols, a lot of baggage. There's a lot to unpack.
Yeah. Besides, those incredible those little details in there too. A lot of times, Trump was saying that J.D. Vance is going to somehow, like, be the one to do everything. It was weird. He was implying that Vance was going to take over for him. It was weird. Like, as if Trump wasn't the one who was going to do it. He was like, JD's going to make sure that Elon does this or something. Like, he kept implying JD was going to do it.
Interesting. Foreshadowing, possibly.
Yeah.
Bad news, though. I mean, that's just terrible, but that's probably what's going to happen. And then Musk calls himself a dark MAGA here, and previously he's actually he said, I think Trump said he's going to take us to Mars. He's going to take us to Mars before the end of his next term, and to me, Mars is all just code for something else. But Musk showing up here does this little cheerleading thing, acts his normal kind of strange self, but yeah, he's the Rocket Man. Undeniable connection there. Fascinating that you pointed that out in advance.
Yeah, and you know what, man? If you really wrote the stuff down, the fact that he got shot at 6/11, 84 days later he's at Butler again, and then he mentions the 6/11 as a moment of silence. Then the Rocket Man. If you put everything together, you see these are not coincidences. To anybody who thinks it is. Obviously, they're not truthers, because if you were, there's no way you can't see this. It's impossible.
Right, and this isn't truth or bait or chicken feed that's placed out there. This is beyond this. I call it cutting fringe, because this is the part you're not supposed to see. This is like insiders who are a little illuminated about certain aspects would pick this stuff up, or if you knew the script. But these are these connections. I take notes. I take deep notes on it. I've been following this stuff, and it's embedded into all of the major movie productions. It's embedded into all the entertainment, and it's synchronizing all of the programming with the fake news because they write history. Someone in here asked, "What's the point of all this?" It's because they're controlling time and space. They're controlling time.
Well, just real quick before I could answer that, but really what I want to say also is I mentioned the Rocket Man connection also with Elton John, right? And Elton John's born on 325, which was the first of the year on the old Julian calendar. The 325 from 325 to 10/5 was 6 months, 11 days. But the that was the whole connection to the Rocket Man thing. But man, I forgot what I was. He mentioned rockets throughout the whole speech, but he also mentioned the most credible thing. What's the chances of him mentioning the 325 number? He mentions 325,000 deaths and with kids and migrants. I don't know what Trump was saying. So he mentioned the 325 also, you know.
I see that. I see that. Yeah, and Elton John, of course, has a great deal of significance in the story and the Rocket Man theme. It ties into Elvis in many ways, and they made a point for Elton John to buy the image of the falling man, the 9/11 falling man, which has some interesting connotations in and of itself, because I think Rocket Man and Falling Man are kind of the same thing.
Elton sounds like Elon. Elton sounds like Elon.
Yeah, there's the L thing, which is also a code in his name. And you know, in the Elvis movie, by the way, he mentions twice, he mentions taking a rocket to the, quote, Rock of Ages, whatever the hell that means, I don't know. But there was this refrain. And then we have to look at Elon Musk sent Starman into space. And the Starman, Mr. Satan, anagram, was based on David Bowie, a rock star man who has Elvis's birthday. So there's just some kind of veneration of this deity or this fallen angel, whatever you want to call it. This embodiment of Saturn. And this embodiment of Saturn ties to Elvis. And in Megalopolis, at the Saturnalia Festival, they have a guy dressed like Elvis singing Trump's inauguration theme. Like, this is ridiculous. This is...
Yeah. And yeah, all that Elon is missing is the... I forget that. I just want... man, I forgot what I was going to say because I got distracted with something. Darn it. Go ahead.
Well, okay, well, you had mentioned that Trump had thrown out there 325. And this blatant reference to 611, knowing this is staged, this 611 is obviously not just some random number or timestamp, and it ties into everything else as we could go into. But in the right wing circles, it's the armor of God. It's Tim 611. It's Timothy McVeigh executed 611, and all the nuke references that go to that number. But it's a reference to the future 9/11ing. That's going to occur at the hands of domestic violent extremists. That's what 611.
Yeah, I know. And what's the chance? Yeah, that Timothy McVeigh gets 611. Yeah.
At 33 years old, and he was motivated because of Waco's destruction, and Dave Koresh was 33 when he was incinerated, and then Trump kicks off his campaign in Waco, and then on the anniversary of Waco, a guy sets himself on fire outside the Trump courthouse. Like, these things are super connected. Every single one of these things.
And Elton John's I told you, his last concert tour was called Farewell Yellow Brick Road. Yellow Brick Road is is the Emerald City, which is Seattle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Seattle's the Emerald City. These are all really, really fascinating connections. And if you think of anything else, feel free to call in. Thanks for adding to this. Thank you. Have a great day.
Take care. Bye.
All right, so what do we have here? We have... And I just have to point out, because a few days ago, I had said, go to Jurassic Liars' channel and watch his videos on this Rocket Man theme and see what he's pointing out. And he had made these extrapolations based on calendar dates and this predictive model, which basically said, yes, there's some kind of event happening 84 days from the head wound in the same place. He said this would happen before the place was announced would be the place, some significant event or plot twist or development in the script. And here you have Trump at the exact second, 12 weeks later, and they're ringing a bell a few times. I mean, this is all ominous stuff. And he's hanging out with dark MAGA Elon. Corey had the best seat in the House. Of course, Corey Comparator. There's quite a lot you could unpack with the symbolism here. The guy didn't die. Nobody died here. The whole thing is a psyop. And truthers, of course, still think it's real. And let me bring this up. In the movie Megalopolis, so the main character in Megalopolis is definitely based on Neo. But he's a Trump proxy in his actions, in his role. But he doesn't look like Trump. He looks like Neo. And he's the face of White Noise, which has the East Palestine connected nuke thing in it. And he's the face of that. He's the face of Megalopolis, where he gets shot in the right eye, dies, and is resurrected. So he connects these two events, Butler and East Palestine, 42 miles apart, same face, same actor. This is the Trump correlation. But in Megalopolis, you have John Voight. John Voight is a big MAGA type, and he's the guy who provides the visuals of Trump. They build a gold statue to him. His children are like Trump's children. This is the Trump proxy in the movie. He's Hamilton Crassus. But here's John Voight talking about how you have to support Trump or our dreams will be voided with darkness and lies.
There are a lot of my peers putting out videos trying to brainwash the American people to do the most dangerous vote ever. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. They both are the lowest and most vile choice that you can trust with your life, your children's life. They will destroy the American dream. They are corrupt.
Now, I'm just pointing this out because these celebrities are what I call predictive programming proxies. So his role in the movie visually is to bring Trump into the show. The other character also is a Trump proxy in various aspects. It's a sophisticated form of foreshadowing. And again, I started off with this. PSYOPs imitate art. Look at the New York Post. They call Trump Braveheart. And on the day of the shooting, I said, look, he's doing the Braveheart pose. And the flag's positioned where if you superimposed it over his face, it would perfectly line up with not only the Braveheart movie cover, but his avatar. And his avatar has 9/11 encoded into it as well. We talked about the 9/11 of Trump's head. Okay, moving on. Truth Seeker says, I find it interesting how Christians are blindly supporting Trump when Melania has endorsed the unaliving of babies. Trump is pushing Elon, who wants to microchip people's brains, and wore a Baphomet costume. And let's not forget about Amber Rose, who's promoting the MAGA movement. This is definitely dark MAGA. Well, you know, the Rose thing. I talked about the Rose cross, Rose, the goddess, the red, the white, Babylon, and the beast. Amber Rose is a MAGA speaker who was at RNC, big MAGA person, always seen with MAGA rappers. And she's definitely one of these Babylon archetypes, a MAGA, a witch, does the blood drinking. I think she was she selling blood for consumption? But Amber Rose and the symbol of the red and the blood and the goddess, it's all there. In fact, if you don't know who Amber Rose is, I'll go ahead and put this up on the screen. Now, they were doing something with blood. I don't know if they were selling it to eat it. Okay, Amber Rose, blood bat amulet. There's something here. But here, anyway, here's the MAGA person. And I don't know very much about her other than she spoke at the RNC. And I did a little digging. And I'm like, why are they... And she's got a tattoo across her forehead, by the way. So here she is at the all-seeing eye of CBS. I'm pretty sure I've seen her with blood transfusions. I don't know what she was doing, or she was covered in blood. Here she is dressed in pink. So I kind of gave her a cursory examination, and this is definitely a Babylon Scarlet Woman archetype. And this is the religion of the elite, the Lima, the OTO, Ordo Templi Orientis, Musk, and the Mars mission. Mars is code for the Age of Horus. This is not a literal trip to Mars. And they're all part of the same big cult. So I just, their symbolism's consistent, whether it's on the left or the right. And this would be just one more representative of this. So just that this person's like, how can Christians follow him? Well, they don't look too deep. Captain Intrigue says, in Trump's rally last night, Elon referred to himself as Dark MAGA. Darth is a term used to describe a Sith Lord who uses the dark side of the Force from Star Wars, using tactics of deception, manipulation, and exploiting fear and anger. So I picked up a book by Isaac Weishaupt. I found it on the random at a thrift store. And I'm going to take this book out here because he had said something about the Force that I thought was interesting. The book is called The Dark Path. And he goes into predictive programming. He goes into a lot of the stuff and seems to think that NASA is really concerned with contacting interdimensionals. The whole aliens are demons concept, which actually makes a lot more sense than the aliens are from outer space. But I caught something in here yesterday. I'll see if I can find the exact quote, where he was describing like panpsychism, or the idea that the universe itself is intelligent and that the Force is how they represent tapping into this ubiquitous source of energy. And let me see if I can find it. I'll do a deep dive into this book. I'll probably finish it in the next couple of days. It's called The Dark Path. I don't want to spend too much time researching live on the fly. Okay, let's see who has joined us. It looks like we've got... All right, yes. We have about 101 people in chat. So if you're in chat and you want a wrench, just say hi. Somebody came in here with a basket of blue wrenches. And so if you're just hanging out in chat and somebody offers gifts, what will happen is you'll just be granted a 1-month membership. Busy56 said, I watched Southland Tales, directed by Donnie Darko's director. Awful movie, but lots in there. Derek Chauvin-like characters, squibs, huge rocket, eye shot out, twins, and more. Okay. Okay, and the twins thing, another rabbit trail. And Donnie Darko's father worked on the Viking Mars rover. So you have this Hollywood NASA connection right there. Marcel gifted a Blue Wrench Lodge membership to Roxy W. I'll open up phones if anybody has anything else to add. I see another 5 new wrench members. So what I'll be doing here, I'm uploading shorts, and YouTube has expanded it, so now they're up to 3 minutes instead of just 1. And these shorts will be going into the weeds on specific topics. And one of the things I'll talk about, for example, is how I arrive at the idea that the significance of 42 relates to, or 33, what they relate to in the big picture. But I kind of want to define things, break things down into shorter segments so you don't have to listen to 3 hours, and also to help people catch up. Like, what do you mean when you say that rockets are really just obelisks and this is all syncretism, merging old religion with science fiction? I can explain that in 3 minutes. And if you're subscribed, if you're a member, you'll get first access to all of my IPS shorts. So thanks for supporting the channel, and I will do my best to upload more of these as I get time. And I do expect to have more time as I go forward. So there's lots of this going on right now. A lot of people, a lot of right-wing crisis actors jumping on top of the hurricane. So it's bad enough you already have bad weather, catastrophic weather events, deaths, power outages, all kinds of bad things happening. But then, now you have all these actors who come out acting like tough guy, anti-government activists, ranting about FEMA, and they don't have any direct evidence. You just have to, it's just secondhand. This is just like Maui, where all these randos would just pull over in their cars and start talking about the 1,500 missing kids that nobody's talking about. And I'm like, Nobody's talking about 1,500 missing kids, but every other X channel that's being promoted to me is telling me that there's 1,500 missing kids. The My Dead Kids crowd. I'm like, but My Dead Kids. I'm like, well, who has any direct evidence? There's 1,500 videos. There's 1,500 crisis actors talking about 1,500 missing kids, but there aren't any missing kids that are at least being talked about. And they'll say that's because the media doesn't want you to know. Well, the same thing is happening. Well, here's a MAGA who's now saying that he's going to start beating Harris supporters.
Boy, if you still support this administration after what they're doing for the hurricane victims, You're a piece of fucking shit. I'm telling you what, man, it's time for this country to rise up, invoke our Second Amendment for what our
It's always, to me, I'm always like, you first. These people like Laura Loomer and Tim Pool, like, why don't we do execution for treason? Why don't we go arrest the bad guys? Why don't we go do this? I'm like, well, you first. It just sounds like a lot of instigators. And I would suggest that this individual here is an instigator, possibly a crisis actor, but he's doing provocateur work.
forefathers intended it to be. I'm telling you, man, being tolerant of this fucking bullshit is what got us to this damn point. I tell you what, man.
Does anybody think this is a fake accent like I do? I don't believe this, for one. I don't believe it.
I see a son bitch wearing a Harris hat. I'm going to put knots on that head faster than he can rub 'em.
All right, so if you have a Harris hat, the guy with the FJB hat is going to put knots on your head. I'm super intimidated. And I would wear a Harris shirt in front of someone like that just to troll. Was anybody here in chat in our Discord the other day where we were talking about Neil Postman? Linda Curtis says, why does he sound like that redneck comedian? What's the plaid cut off the shirt? Lord Laney says, Hank Hill. Skyfish says, hey, yo, Tim, keep on with it. Good to check in. Nice. Thanks for joining, Skyfish. So the other day we were sitting in Discord, and I was talking about Huxley and 1984, and I was looking for the origin of this quote, and someone else in chat, I think it was Symbia, had mentioned Neil Postman. So I was talking about Neil Postman for a minute there. He wrote Amusing Ourselves to Death, Conscientious Objections. When I say you have to be a conscientious objector to the Psy-War, I'm referencing Neil Postman's work. And he's an essayist, and Prescient saw a lot, as much as could be seen through the filtered lens that we had, through the MSM lens. But he's the one who wrote, what Orwell feared were those who would ban books. Huxley feared there'd be no reason to ban a book, for no one would want to read them. He compares how Orwell feared those who would deprive us of information. Huxley feared those who would give us so much we would be reduced to passivity and egoism. Huxley feared the truth would be drowned in a sea of irrelevance. I describe this as a raft, penguins on the water, raft up. This is a raft atop a sea of irrelevance. But this quote is ultimately from Neil Postman. Wrote that in 1985, Amusing Ourselves to Death. Huxley feared we would become a trivial culture. Orwell feared we'd become a captive culture. Orwell feared what we hate will ruin us. Huxley feared what we love will ruin us. So I was talking about this in Discord, and then Elon Musk tweeted this very quote yesterday. I'm like, that's interesting. Just a coincidence, but he just tweeted it in entirety with no sense of irony, because he's part of the Brave New World side of this thing. He's part of the info glut, the active measures, the making information itself irrelevant. Yeah, the truth is out there. He's like, yeah, this rocket looks like CGI, but it's not. Must be real because it looks so fake, LOL. Maybe we are in a simulation. Like, there's just duper's delight oozing off Musk's face. Makes me think we're being spied on. And then this. Here's a close-up of Musk shaking Trump's hand. And a lot of people noted, what's with his face? What's with his expression? Okay, now this to me is possibly intentional. This kind of stare. And immediately I thought, oh, this is the Kubrick stare. The Kubrick stare. There's Gomer Pyle. You see it in The Shining. So the Kubrick stare is a cinematic technique. It's quite simple. It portrays somebody as unstable. It was actually coined from someone's observation of Malcolm McDowell in Clockwork Orange. This is the Kubrick stare. Again, Kubrick directed the JFK assassination. Kubrick directed 9/11. Kubrick directed the 20th century. I mean, there are many directors, many writers, many actors. It's not a one-man thing, but Kubrick does have a very special role in all of this. The Kubrick stare is a technique used to portray insane or unstable characters in film. It's where the actor looks out from under the brow line and tilts their head towards the camera. One of cinema's most recognizable shots. Film critics have noticed that Kubrick's stare has an ability to break the fourth wall and evoke fear. Interesting. It often heralds that something intense will take place. A successful Kubrick stare can be invasive. There's a whole article about it on Wiki. I found it to be interesting, just considering that here's Musk giving a Kubrick stare. Could that be coincidental? And others have connected his pose when he jumped up in the air, flashing his pentagram belt buckle and throwing his hands up. Some have compared this to the Masonic distress sign, which is the last sign and the last gesture made by Hiram Abiff before he's killed, before the gavel hits him on the head. And so this is actually consistent with the idea of the head wound. The idea of the head wound, and I talked about this with the with the 10-4 release of Joker 2, how the trailer has the judge getting hit on the head by the gavel. Well, the gavel represents the third degree, the initiate being hit on the head. He's portraying the role of Hiram Abiff. And the last thing he says is like, hands up, don't shoot. Same gesture. It's the distress signal. So here you have Musk behind Trump doing the distress signal. Or he's just jumping and throwing his hand straight up, as one does. But I think it's likely more significant that the Rocket Man is flashing a sign that precedes the death of Hiram Abiff. This symbolizes him falling to his death. I don't think it's a coincidence, but maybe it is. I mean, Musk does look like he's kind of random, but I really don't think anything about these events are random. Etheric Bless says, lots of Supako eyes. Busy56 says, I think John Frankenheimer was definitely involved in the JFK scripting. He directed Manchurian Candidate, 7 Days in May, filmed in JFK White House about a presidential assassination, and The Minutes, about someone they're faking their death. It came out in 1966. Oh, Seconds. Okay. So John Frankenheimer could easily be one. In fact, I think Frank Sinatra's Suddenly, and Frank Sinatra's Manchurian Candidate, he was in it, but he's heavily associated with the predictive programming that preceded JFK's assassination. They even portrayed or played Macbeth in the JFK White House. And there's some elements of Macbeth attached to his assassination story. Violet Pangon says, not random. Tom Smith says, I think Musk and Trump are both good actors. Yeah, absolutely. So Jack says, someone went down to Chimney Rock, North Carolina to dispel the conspiracy theories going on TikTok. This is what I call, because there are two things going on. We have atrocity propaganda by the mainstream media and through proxies like crisis actors, and then you have people who are actually grifting off of it. And I found people who set up GoFundMe accounts. So let me play the atrocity grifter, and then I see something that is a positive development here. But let me start with the atrocity grifter.
Hey guys, I want to put a major trigger warning on this video. There's discussions of loss of life, and it's graphic.
Okay, notice how she's panting, like between words. The loss of life, it's graphic. Yeah, that's method acting. And she's not going to show you anything because she's in a nice home. She's not near ground zero of this event. She says, I just sit here with tears falling down my face. Yeah, there's no tears, but halfway through, she gets to the GoFundMe part, and that's when the tears come.
Guys, I want to put a major trigger warning on this video. There's discussions of loss of life, and it's graphic. The Hurricane Helene disaster in Western North Carolina was 1 week ago today. I'm talking to people at the Yancey County Fire Departments, and this is firsthand information and includes quotes. I'm going to try to...
So it's not firsthand information, it's secondhand information that she's relaying. So this is like 3 or 4 degrees of separation because the person on X isn't the uploader, is not the TikToker. So the TikToker talked to somebody, got information secondhand, relayed it to TikTokers. It was picked up by a Trumper who put it on X. So we're entering into 6 degrees of separation here, and yet she's claiming that this is triggering information.
Say it in the calmest way I can because it's really difficult for me to read this on the note that I wrote down.
Deep breath. Now, if you look up how to cry on WikiHow, in fact, I'll pull that up right now. How to cry. Okay, how to cry, 10 spots. And I almost shouldn't be sharing this information because they will probably improve their game as a result of it. Yeah, cut onions. Forcing yourself to yawn. That's a good one. If you yawn enough, you'll spark some tears. If you can yawn without opening your mouth, it makes it more believable. I think I saw that there. Think about a time you felt emotional. She's doing that. Think about your dead puppy. But the part I think is very telling. Focus on your breathing. Start making crying noises and take deep breaths as if you're hyperventilating, and then add a small hitch in your breathing. If nobody can see, or if you're in a blind spot, run for cover and run on the spot until you're out of breath. This will also, in addition to making you breathless, it'll create blotchy complexions associated with crying. So the hyperventilation here is part of the build-up to her fake crying, which is leading to appeals to you to fund her so she can go to acting school.
There are 4 reefer trucks full of dead bodies. That we don't have numbers on total losses of life, and I don't even know how many people.
How can you cry over something so vague? Like, somebody died somewhere yesterday, boo-hoo. Like, this is not specific enough. She says it looks like a nuclear bomb went off.
It's like a nuclear bomb went off.
And then she starts crying. She compares it to a nuke.
It looks like a nuclear bomb went off. Arms are under boulders. There's no places for these people to live because they can't set up temporary houses on mountainsides and everything.
Okay, now, if you think it's pretty bad now, it escalates. Now, she's not personally involved, but now here's where she says you can send her money, and she's got spreadsheets. And with these spreadsheets, she's going to make sure the money gets to the victims, and she's not going to take any of it, I'm sure.
I have the GoFundMe in my bio. I'm getting wiring information for the fire departments. I'm getting money to these people as soon as I can. I'm keeping track on a spreadsheet.
So if you can find her on TikTok, send her some money. She's going to figure out how to wire it to the fire departments there, and she'll spreadsheet it to make sure it goes there. So you have full confidence that you're not sending money to some group of grifters who have hired a crisis actress to promote some narrative to help the right attack the response from the government, and then, of course, make them some money on the side with Go Fraud Me. Unbelievable.
I'm going to release where I'm sending the money and how much for total transparency. I'm a nurse practitioner locally.
Okay, so there you have it. This is just one example of many of what I call atrocity grifters. Now here's another one.
Making over.
So this one here, this one's funny. She's mad because FEMA has reported on her reporting. She's got 2.4 million hits, and they accused her of lying. But she turns this, being fact corrected, she's been fact checked. She turns this rant into directing the hatred towards illegal immigrants who took all the relief aid money.
Now, because I don't want FEMA calling me a liar. So my source behind all my reporting is actually FEMA itself. If you go to the same website, you search these headlines, guess what? They're on their own website, okay? I pulled all of this information from their press releases. They've been bragging about giving our money away to the invaders for years now.
They've been bragging about giving the money to invaders for years now. I think she's reading a script. Invaders? What does that even mean? And according to someone like Nick Fuentes or any of these far-right types, they would call her an invader. Like, these people are ridiculous. This is a clown show. Okay, this is another one. So I've been told that at Chimney Rock, there's thousands of bodies buried in the mud. And if you go there, the FEMA is seizing the property, eminent domain. I don't know if you've heard about all this, but now check this out. This is auto hoaxing. This is like going to empty hospitals. This is like fact checking. This is reality testing. This guy goes down to Chimney Rock to find out if it's as bad as all the TikTokers say. And guess what?
Because they're working on the roads, they don't want me down here, obviously. But I'll just give you guys an idea of how it looks.
I hear people laughing, they're cleaning up, but what he does is he interviews a couple of people and he asks them about, does it really smell like dead bodies? You know, are there naked children running around crying, where's my mommy? Which is what many people have been saying. Like, somebody told me that they know somebody, the fire department, who has a first-hand account. And I'm just telling you about the first-hand account, so trigger warning. And they all tell the same stories about children without their parents, about black helicopters, and about patriots trying to deliver food and they're getting thrown back by FEMA. It's just, it's a lot of lies.
It's clarified with local authorities that's not happening. They've only found one body in Lake Lure.
They only found one body? And of course, the truthers on X will say you're covering it up, that the mainstream media is lying. It's a weather weapon. They did cloud seeding to cause a hurricane. This is HARP. This is geoengineering.
And yeah, I don't really see anybody being pushed around, and it doesn't stink here. The only dead thing I found was a horse. So here's what Chimney Rock looks like for you guys.
So the only dead thing was a horse. Yeah. Now here he is talking to a local. And just look at the body language. Like, does this seem like this body language of this local is nothing like these patriots talking about fighting the government because of their lack of response? This guy seems oddly cheerful.
He's been clearing the streets with these guys. We don't smell anything, do we?
No. If the smell that was here was more than likely the 50-something propane tanks they took out.
The smell was 50 propane tanks, not dead bodies. You know, kind of like the truthers would say, they're bringing FEMA coffins because they're going to kill us all. And they would show pictures of burial vaults. You know, burial vaults, those plastic containers they throw over caskets and then they put the dirt on top of it so that the terrain doesn't collapse. You can walk across a cemetery and you're not going to fall in because they have burial vaults. So if they didn't, the caskets would implode and you could fall in. But no, it doesn't happen. There aren't divots. The ground remains flat because burial vaults protect the land. They're not FEMA coffins. I'm one of the persons, I probably single-handedly took that rumor down. It took a little bit of time, but I managed to dispel the rumor of FEMA coffins. But the idea that there were bodies all over and it smelled like bodies was pretty widespread about this Chimney Rock. It turns out, no, it was propane tanks. More atrocity grift. Okay, here's another one. Health Ranger, frequent guest on InfoWars. Health Ranger, very popular with the anti-vax cult, says, massive chemtrailing took place right before Helen hit. This is weaponized weather. This photo was taken in North Carolina by a survivor. It was a massive chemtrail inundation right before the hurricane. Now, this is called faulty causality. I mean, yeah, obviously this guy's lying for money. Obviously this guy is a propagandist and probably doesn't even know the mechanism by which this lie propagates, but it's called faulty causality. If it's going to rain later and a plane 30,000 feet up passes over your head, because of the conditions that are going to result in rain later, it's going to leave a trail. The conditions preceded the trail. The conditions were already there. And if it's going to rain, you're going to have a crossover with the occurrence of condensation trails. So the condensation trails don't bring the rain. The conditions for rain make condensation trails highly likely. It's faulty causality. Kind of like Crow 77777 says that if he boils vinegar, it gets rid of contrails. Well, if only he had told the people in North Carolina, hey, boil your vinegar, we could stop the hurricane. No, that's not what happens. Contrails dissipate on their own. The boiled vinegar has nothing to do with it. But if you boil the vinegar and then they disappear, you could make the argument to yourself in a solipsistic bubble that I caused that. but it's not true. You know, it's like pointing at any cloud and saying, I'm going to concentrate on that cloud and it's going to move. It was going to move whether or not you pointed at it. We shouldn't be falling for these tricks. But people who follow the Health Ranger and Alex Jones are skyphobes. And skyphobia is a grift that only works on the scared and ignorant. Penguin Doctor says it's a ploy by the MSM to dilute real eyewitness reporting and to make social media reporting seem Q-tardish, building up to the fake news. Yeah, I think what we're seeing here is an active measure targeting truthers and destroying the credibility of non-mainstream reportage. 100%. Mazel says, I'm glad you found this video. I was going to post it, but got busy. Yeah, it's a great one. Because this is what when I say we have to get on-the-ground reporting, that we need IPR reporters everywhere, this is what I mean. You have your press pass, you go out and you see who's lying. But I was planning on fact-checking the mainstream media. Now it turns out we're going to have to fact-check the truthers. Somebody go out there and see if the Hells Angels are heading to Aurora to help fight the Venezuelan gangs so they don't take the jobs from American gangs. It's like, no, these apartments are meant to be patrolled by the Bloods and the Crips. Can't have these Venezuelan gangs from over there coming over here and taking their jobs. Like, that's all just rumor mongering, and we need to fact check it. Skyfish says, Tim, but my space station. Yeah, still nobody, and I challenge McToon and others to this. No one has yet provided concurrent footage of the space station from 2 locations. No triangulation. Mizell says he talked to a woman whose house was destroyed. Yeah, I mean, look, there is real destruction. There are real issues. However, it doesn't help anybody that these individuals are lying to impugn government. They're lying because they think they have a good cause to, but worse, they're sacrificing truth for clicks. You have people blaming the airplanes, that's just insane. Yeah, the airliners, these commercial airliners, turned on their chemtrail juice and started a hurricane in order to kill white voters. And it was done by Kamala. That's what they actually think. Here's an AP article, U.S. News. After the deluge. By the way, let me bring this up really quick. White noise, Palestine, Ohio. It's about fake news and not believing it. And how not believing the news, rather, creates this problem of underreaction to the right response, to the right or to the real news. So if we don't believe the news and we have some kind of emergency and we don't believe the mainstream, now there's a problem. We have to be on the same sheet, especially if something big happens, like a nuke and fallout. We have to have a concerted response. Like, we can't have what happened in 2020 where half the country protests the safety measures. And I think White Noise was conveying that message. White Noise, the movie about this blackout and this toxic airborne event that followed a train derailment. But then also Leave the World Behind, which reiterates most of the themes from White Noise, has a section called The Flood. And I've been saying for some time that the flood is symbolic of the information dump, the sea of irrelevance, that our minds are being flooded. And this is designed to disconnect us from objective reality and from coming up with a coherent view of the world. Meanwhile, the worldview monopolists who are dumping all this information, misinformation, malinformation, they write history. They get to designate what is and isn't real, who and who isn't authoritative. This is the desert of the designated real. And you can't compete with that. Alt media cannot compete with mainstream for worldview formation. It's a lost cause. If you want to have a coherent worldview outside the box, you have to go parallel media. You have to join this new third branch because they have flooded the mainstream box. But this is from U.S. News. After the deluge, the lies, misinformation, and hoaxes could cloud the recovery. The facts emerging from the hurricane's destruction are heartrending. Businesses and homes destroyed, communities wiped out, hundreds of people missing, hundreds of lives lost. Yet, disinformation agents, hucksters, and politicians are exploiting it with false claims and conspiracy theories about the government's response. According to Trump, the government is withdrawing aid, withholding aid. Far-right groups are claiming that the officials are going to bulldoze communities and seize the land eminent domain. Some say it's weather control technology, steering it towards Republican voters to tilt the election toward Harris. These claims, according to local officials, say less about the reality of damage from the hurricane and more about America's fractured politics and fear and distrust. Debunking conspiracy theories is taking time from true recovery efforts. So, we can point out these grifters are just making money off of X, but I think it's also notable to point out that it's unconscionable and it's technically kind of evil. It would be like flooding the fire department with phone calls if there's like a spate of fires, perhaps arson or something going on. Like there's already a disaster or there's already fire going on. You don't need to call and exaggerate it or even tell people it's worse than it is. It just seems like it would create a headache, but they're doing it for clicks. I think even Alex Jones and others have said that this is a weather weapon to steer politics. But these are claims that are solely MSM plus. So the mainstream box, Normieville, says this bad thing happened. Truthers say it's got to be worse, so they add on to it. Oh, it's not 100 bodies, it's 1,000. Oh, it's not a hurricane, it's a geoengineering storm. They're going to seize the land. They're going to steer the election. They created the hurricane with chemtrails. That additional stuff they add is called MSM plus. MSM plus is the opposite direction of skepticism. It's complete fabrication and fan fiction. We are engaged here in MSM minus, the subtractive view, which says, let's not believe what we can't verify. Instead of, let's just spread a bunch of stuff around and hope somebody gets to the truth. Let me play this clip here. Hillary Clinton says social media companies need to censor people's content or we will, quote, lose total control. Did you know they have total control? Because they do. They have total control over the entire media spectrum, and the worldview does have an effective monopoly.
We should be, in my view, repealing something called Section 230, which gave platforms on the internet immunity because they were thought to be just pass-throughs, that they shouldn't be judged for the content that is posted. But we now know that that was an overly simple view, that if the platforms, whether it's Facebook or Twitter X or Instagram or TikTok, whatever they are, if they don't moderate and monitor the content, we lose total control. And it's not just the
Gonna lose total control, said the quiet part out loud. That's what they're supposed to say in their secret meetings around a round table, and then they all laugh, the Dr. Evil laugh. This is not meant for the public to hear. Penguin Doctor says, Flat Earth movement was successfully infiltrated by Bible-based flat earthers. Yeah, I would even argue that if you go back even further, before people started talking about the shape of the earth and questioning the globe model, which is questionable, but before that, there were people who were doing analysis of the ISS photography and finding all kinds of hoaxery before the flat earth thing. So you could argue that NASA's skepticism was sidelined by an obsession with the shape of the earth, which doesn't take, into account the worldview fakery, which is way bigger than just the shape of the world or what NASA shows us, because it has to do with the faking of history. But you're right about that. They use the Bible in order to denigrate its leaders. In other words, there's no intellectual leadership in a Bible flat earth commune. These are anti-science, closed model bigots. Like they don't have, like what I mean is like their model is a closed system. They tolerate no new information. And if you don't believe them, you're a Satanist or you're the devil. And they really are hateful. And a lot of them are, part of that, what was it Netanyahu said, flat earth anti-Semitism thing. It is a thing because of people like Eric Dubay, where they've attached the flat earth concept to old conspiracy theories that have been repackaged lately as Q. So you can't even separate a lot of these things anymore. It's a mess. But the one thing that's worth preserving is the questioning, the skepticism regarding special effects. The flat Earth question is valid. Questioning NASA is a valid pursuit because it's highly questionable, and we do get answers. Oh, that was done not with cables, but with some kind of seesaw like they did in Inception. Oh, that's hairspray. Yeah, that's a vein bulging on the guy's forehead because he's upside down, and that's why his cheeks are inflated. Like, we ask questions, we get answers. What are those bubbles? How are the spacewalks performed? What's with the light loss on the spacewalks? So we get answers. We're not just here asking ridiculous questions, and we're not trying to promote an agenda or a biblical worldview. And that's fine if someone's into a biblical worldview, but like, this isn't church. Like, you're in the wrong saloon. This is the most, I think, out of any think tank out there, you might find the highest concentration of skeptics here than anywhere. This is not the place to shop around a belief system or to seek one. We foment a culture of disbelief. Penguin says, we're witnessing the real-time infiltration of Bible-based auto hoaxers to root. Yeah, there's no skepticism in religious belief. It's a place of faith. And I would argue that the mainstream media is the dominant religion, and its adherents are faithful, not evidence-based. So there's a point where if your guiding light in life is a religious paradigm or it's the news media, you're not going to make it to the off-world stage. You won't go there. It's outside of your, outside of your comfort zone. And there's no more comfortable a zone than the MSM box. It's unchallenging. And one nice thing about auto hoaxers, or the term auto hoaxer, is that this was a term of denigration, like conspiracy theorist. So the mainstream says you guys are conspiracy theorists. Conspiracy theorists, who are alt-mainstream, look at skeptics and say, you're auto hoaxers. It's a pejorative. And it's meant to suggest that we're reflexively calling things fake, which is a straw man, a mischaracterization of what we do. And I make the point that we are informed non-believers. We know why we don't believe certain things, and we know more about the stuff that people believe than the believers do while we say it's fake. So you might say, well, I believe this news event happened. And I'm like, well, how many people died? What were their names? What time did it happen? They have no information. They just believe the headlines. If you believe the headlines and then you frame your existence around that with a lot of other people that do, you've entered into the hive mind. You've entered into the mental map of the world, the consensus one that I call a simulation. Reverse history says the moon is made of petrified wood and mighty mice roam freely on SpaceX rockets. True facts. If we're going to go off of evidence, I think we can say pretty safely that the moon's made of petrified wood. You know, Joe Rogan mentioned that. Didn't he? I think he mentioned the petrified wood moon rocks. You know, this reminds me. I was looking at, Bart Sibrel. You know, Bart Sibrel is one of the main NASA critics who's allowed to be a NASA critic. He says a funny thing happened on the way to the moon. And he's the one who got punched by, I think it was Neil Armstrong. No, it was Buzz Aldrin punched him. But anyway, Bart Sibrel was recently on Joe Rogan, and he pushes the same kind of line that Fly Me to the Moon does, that we had to fake the moon landing to trick the Russians. But he doesn't say space is fake. He still believes in aliens and secret space technology. So he's kind of a limited hangout operative. I think he's probably CIA. But his name, Bart Sibrel, never stood out to me as that strange. It's kind of unique until I came across Bart Sibrel, which is the name of a Hebrew word. It means beast. I think that's the one. No, it has to do with Mars. Bart Sibrel. Now, it's spelled a little differently, but it's pronounced mostly the same. Here it is. It's the spirit of Mars. Aleister Crowley evoked him. So Aleister Crowley, you can't separate Aleister Crowley, Thelema, Jack Parsons from the space age. Think Babylon working. They're repackaging an archaic worldview with science fiction for the progressive New World Order religion of Nasatology. But it's just notable to me that one of the main gatekeepers slash disinfo agents connected to this damage control for the moon landing psyop has the name that is strikingly similar to one of Aleister Crowley's demons. Probably just a coincidence. I just thought I'd point that out. There are coincidences, so there might be one right there. Mountain Dew, Southern Shock. Could that have been a prediction for North Carolina? Dwayne Obith says, okay, so God was bored says that we're being bored to death collectively, that Huxley was onto something. And Dwayne Obith says it's the opposite, we're being entertained to death. Many are unable to accept that reality isn't as fantastical as the narratives in popular media make it to seem. I think it might be both. I think they're hiding how interesting it is with entertainment. And the entertainment is really entrainment to a worldview that they deem safe for us. I think that the more interesting, like they say truth is stranger than fiction. Yeah, I think it is. None of these conspiracy theories that we've been told for years, that have been popularized for years, are anywhere as interesting as the one that we're being ruled by some kind of theatrical production, that the psychological war, the theater of Psywar, encompasses the president as the crisis actor in chief, and that there are layers to the storytelling that connect to all the movies. In fact, I've been talking about Megalopolis a lot, and there was a quote that was posted in our Discord. I think Leo Pirate posted it. The director, Francis Ford Coppola. Now, there's connections that go so deep with this director, Godfather, on up to this new one, Megalopolis, all connecting with the Trump head wound thing. But he actually came out in an interview. Listen to this. This is from Leo Pirate, posted this one. Thank you very much for this. He said, a choice quote from Francis Coppola at IMAX at the screening for Megalopolis. Listen to what he says, because he describes how not only is his work prescient and predictive, but it's going to come true in a few months.
Also, my films are a little...
And I also want to add Joker 2's tagline, the world's a stage. And I think that was one of the main messages in Joker 2. But listen to this.
Also, my films are a little prescient. They relate to the future. Like when I made The Conversation, it was about an eavesdropper. People said, what do you want to make a film about an eavesdropper for? But 8 years later, it was Watergate. And people always said to me, what do you want to make a movie about America as Rome? Well, today America is Rome. And they're about to go through the same experience, for the same...
So today America is Rome, and it's going to go through the same experience. He has the MAGA in this movie, Make Rome Great Again. I guess someone mentioned that his previous movies seemed to precede Watergate. I have to look at the rest of his work now. But again, he said his work's prescient, but also here's where he says it's going to happen.
Reasons that Rome lost its republic and ended up with an emperor. So, you know, I mean, this movie is perhaps was very prescient to do a movie about America's Rome, because it's going to happen in a few months.
It's going to happen in a few months, and they all start laughing. So Megalopolis, Russian satellite, 9/11's New York, and then we have this total reset. There's quite a lot in this one. But this is good. This is really good. Penguin Doctor says, if you can frame someone's sphere of reference, you can control their thoughts and their imagination will fill in the blanks. Yeah, I have a good example of this. I know someone who knows someone who went camping in a place where Sasquatch had been sighted reportedly. Now, this person was not a believer, but their spouse was. They heard animal noises at night. Their spouse said, yeah, it was Bigfoot. And they're going to die saying, it was Bigfoot. I heard Bigfoot. Why? Because it was in their realm of possibility. And the realm of possibility of the world stage model doesn't comport with the real world. They insert things as possibilities that are not possibilities. We live in a world of impossibilities. And these things are called, superstitions, but since they're reinforced, I would call them hyperstitions, more than superstitions, deliberately inserted into the collective psyche. so they can play off of it. Swirling Spice says there's another Mountain Dew flavored called Thrashed Apple. Could this be Washington State? Yes, I would say so. Mountain Dew predictive programming has been consistent with nearly every disaster we've looked at. And here's another one. Thrashed Apple, and it has the skull and bones. I see a guitar and then hand sign. Devil hand sign. Intriguing. Ski 1384 says Nixon said back in the day the American people don't believe anything till they see it on TV. Yeah, exactly. Matt Walsh, who does these right-wing documentaries that play off of straw man arguments but do very well in the marketplace. He said he'll believe the moon landing was hoaxed when Elon Musk tells him. And that's how a lot of people are. They have to hear the argument from a trusted authority. Only mainstreamers trust the mainstream authority, and alt media doesn't. So the idea that I don't believe that unless this guy on TV tells me it's true means that you have handed over authority over your own mind. You are not the arbiter of what you believe. Somebody else is. You outsourced some part of your perception. See, I don't do that. I stopped doing that. But at one point I did. Violet Pangon says Washington makes 42% of the apples. 42nd state. The number 42 has everything to do with this PSYOP that JL references that this is a huge part of the story. The moment of silence today where Donald Trump has a moment of silence at 6/11, 12 weeks or 84 days following, this is like beyond coincidence. These are plot points. These are scenes in a movie. And that's a way to look at it. Fake news and these world stage events, fake events on the world stage in front of us, performed like a reality TV production. These are scenes in a movie, scenes in our history. And our history is largely going to be video, approved video that's been filtered properly. And it's going to be the final stamp on what is. Like, so 100 years from now, all the fake news is going to be considered, that's what happened. Diana Southard says, many scripts and playbooks have been played to appeal to the masses, including the biblical. Yes. Yeah, exactly. They take this like, it's bastardized. You know, I know the QAnon movement's use of gematria and numerology is considered to be a bastardized Kabbalah. Like, in other words, it's divorced from its real place of origin. They've just thrown in a bunch of stuff and they make it fit. It's done for literature. I have many examples of characters on the world stage, actors, like even Joker. In the Joker movie, they did this Christ-like martyrdom of him, even stripped him down. And none of these things are coincidental. He played Jesus. He's been crucified in many movies. The name Phoenix has connotations connecting with Christ, but these are all to be considered as part of the movie. So when you watch a movie, it's not just about what's on the screen, it's about what's on other screens that are being aired at the same time. It's about what's on the news. And it's about the real events on the ground. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Roseanne Barr's son asks Mike Flynn, when do we get to use the guns? Again, these are bomb throwers on the far right made to tarnish everybody in Trutherville so they can do psyops and they can make that movie Civil War appear to be happening in the real world. Marjorie Taylor Greene says they can control the weather, but she doesn't believe in climate change. I'm saying both are wrong. Now, has anyone seen this? There's this conspiracy theory that the Doors album 13 has Aleister Crowley on the back. Others say it's Beethoven. It kind of looks like a mashup between the two. Just a small piece of trivia if anyone wants to look that up. Hillary Clinton again says that they're going to lose total control if they don't censor social media. They lost total control over some of us. Trump gives himself a Purple Heart. Didn't Trump say that he wished he had a Purple Heart like some time ago? Vietnam vet gives Trump a Purple Heart. Couldn't think of anybody more deserving. And he's allegedly a draft dodger. Yes, a Vietnam veteran gives Trump a Purple Heart. Back in 2016, Trump said, "I've always wanted to get the Purple Heart." So that's the second one he's been given. Fascinating. Okay, we talked about Trump shouting out. Corey says the guy got the best seat in the House. Trump with the Braveheart thing. We talked about the MAGA, the dark MAGA stuff, and the virus X. So here's something that's interesting. Azealia Banks said, "I believe the role he was given in Monsters Ball," and we're talking about Diddy. I need to catch up on this Diddy Stein thing. So here's Diddy in Monsters Ball. I have not seen this movie. But Azealia Banks says, "I believe the role he was given in Monsters Ball and the electric chair scene was Hollywood style, quote, in your face, this is our plan, foreshadowing. Once those two little girls realize and understand what their father did to their mother and how their brothers covered it up." So this is an example. Now, what are we looking at with this Diddy thing? Is it real? Because it seems like there's a predictive programming basis for it in Monsters Ball. So if anybody's seen that, I'd be interested to know. I didn't know Diddy was in it, but he's a world stage actor. He's connected with some high-profile fake deaths. So is it right to assume this is real? Or could this just be some grotesque role that he took on for future mass mind manipulation? Because again, they write our history, and a lot of it's salacious and disturbing. So here's Diddy in a cell.
You're welcome.
Interesting, right? And this is where he is right now. So I'll look into this some more. Fascinating lead. Thank you for sending that. We talked about the Kubrick stare, the predictive programming proxies for Trump in Megalopolis, and in, I think you would consider the white noise one to kind of connect with that one. All right, let's see if there's anything else in the chats here. Milton just became a hurricane already, says Kevin Mooring. Oh, there's another hurricane. Were they chemtrailing out there? Here we go again. Milton becomes a hurricane and is expected to strengthen as Floridians reel from Helen. All right, there's a lot of crisis actor money to be made up. If anyone wants a crisis act, now is the time. If you don't have a soul... God Was Bored says, there's no connection between The Doors and Beethoven, so why would they put this image on the cover of... Yeah, exactly. The rumor is that it was a reference to Crowley. Would I connect Crowley with The Doors? In a way, the whole do what thou wilt thing does connect with it. There is quite a lot with Jim Morrison, and he did have a Messiah complex. 27 Club, which is an interesting little trail. 27 Club, the Die Young Club. We should look into some of these Death Fakers clubs again. It all deserves a rewatch. Thank you for the support. Appreciate the gas in the think tank. Thirst for Truth. Today is 10/6. Again, very important anniversary. Modern Warfare 3 came out on 10/6/2023, allowing millions to immerse themselves in a simulated war environment on the eve of an attack, at least alleged attack. It just seemed like everything got less real, you know, with this 10/7. Each side was calling the other side fake. Each side was saying the other side is using rubber dummies. No, you guys are using dummies. No, we're not. These are real victims. Yours are dummies. And I'm like, wait, who's using fake dummies? Like, they're both using hyper-realistic surgical training dolls. And I point out, hey, look, there's like 20 dead kids lined up on the sidewalk, and their eyes are closed and their mouths are closed. Like sardines, just lined up there. Unembalmed, supposedly killed by bombs. What kind of bombs kill kids but don't maim them visibly? What kind of bomb can do that? Sorry, didn't make any sense. And then on top of it, when you're dead, your eyes are open. They open up. They dehydrate. They don't close. They don't stay closed. And nothing's going to keep your jaw closed. These are things that the funeral homes deal with. I used to work in one, and I've sewn many mouths closed. I've used the plastic inserts and closed many eyes. Because unlike in the movies, you can't just wipe your hand over someone's face and their eyes close. It doesn't work that way. So I was pointing out some of these nuances last year, and it was just clear to a lot of people that, you know, body counts are just things you throw out there. Atrocity propaganda is often recycled. Like, do you remember the incubator babies? There's the incubator baby hoax, where it was supposedly Saddam Hussein had his soldiers. It was the Naira testimony that Iraqi soldiers were taking babies out of incubators. Now, this whole story about the incubator babies and her false account is not that dissimilar from truthers going on X making these claims about North Carolina that they can't verify. Well, anyway, 33 years later, after her testimony about incubator babies, we heard about 40 decapitated babies killed by Hamas or whatever on 10/7. It was like almost word for word the same types of claims. So I'm just pointing out that everything's recycled, a lot of the propaganda itself. And her testimony was on October 10th, 1990. So fast forward 33 years, October 10th, 2023, we hear about 40 decapitated babies. Again, I'm like, this is recycled. So what is your take on Diddy? God is Bored says, the Doors certainly and frequently happily associated with other famous musicians who are connected to Crowley. Oh yeah, the connections are worth looking at. Mick Jagger in a Kenneth Anger film. That's a big deal. Kenneth Anger is connected to the Babylon working. Kenneth Anger, Satanist, filmmaker, did a movie with Marjorie Cameron after the Babylon working. And he's the one who wrote Hollywood Babylon, which came back as Babylon. No, as it was called Hollywood, rather. Or what did they call it? No, they called it Babylon. The one with Margot Robbie. So Margot Robbie, Babylon, based on Kenneth Anger's book. And Kenneth Anger did a movie with Mick Jagger and Bobby Basoli, one of the Manson killers. And he's part of the Church of Satan, which sent its witch, Susan Atkins, to kill Sharon Tate. It's a very small circle of interconnected people who are performing these events, and it's fascinating to go through on certain threads. Like, look at the connections between the sexual revolution, Thelema, Satanism, and Hollywood, and certain types of starlets and the archetypes they present. It's very consistent. Like when I say that Barbie and Barbie feminism, that Barbie represents the whore of Babylon. Barbie land is Babylon. This is a new goddess archetype for the new age. Like, I'm not being hyperbolic. It's quite literally true that Barbie represents a new era of idol worship. Gennaro Rodriguez says, yo, Tim, I love you. This is my 4th YouTube channel I made because I get blocked. Well, hopefully you don't get blocked this time. I'll hand you a wrench. King Ravana says, Ice-T calls the money parties for adopting gang colors. Penguin Doctor says, Gwar has a song, Saddam a Go-Go. Yeah, well, Saddam Hussein and the incubator baby thing was debunked a long time ago. Doesn't matter. The truth is secondary to clicks. Obreek says, Barbie times 2001 A Space Odyssey. Yeah, it opens up with Barbie's the monolith, and the little girls are told, don't be a mother, it's drudgery. And they dash the heads of their babies against the rocks. Like, that's insane. Roxy says, Diddy's not in jail, in my opinion, must be a Fed informant in jail. He'd be in pieces by now. Yeah, supposedly he's in the same jail where you have Sam Bankman-Fried, Bankman-Fraud, R. Kelly, and Frank James, the subway shooter, known online as the Prophet of Doom. It's like a bunch of Gotham villains. It could be it could be an episode. Like it's like like the Penguin. Like, these are all really interesting fake characters, and they're all from the Batman universe. And they have been merging the Batman fictional universe with real world news for some time. And here you have P. Diddy was actually told by Warner Brothers, stop putting on the Joker costume. Although he couldn't have ruined it any more than Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga just did. And I'm not a film critic in that sense. I'm more like a critic of the news, but a lot of people are kind of mad about how they handled Joker 2. And having seen it, I can't say I disagree with the critics. There are some elements to it that I think are worth examining from the perspective of propaganda analysis. But in terms of, I don't know. I mean, Joker's kind of in this movie. He's kind of a weak loser who gives into his weakness. He doesn't embrace his dark side at the end. And I'm comparing it with Penguin, which I love. I've been watching Penguin, and he's someone who refuses to lose. He doesn't have everything handed to him, and he has this ethic and this can-do, get it done by any means necessary attitude that he conveys to his protege. Anyway, great show, Penguin, if you haven't seen it. But this Joker movie, though, it's one of these things that I think it's worth examining in context of predictive programming, if nothing else. Conscious Reality CD says, Tim, yesterday I listened to a podcast that called the P. Diddy Victim Hotline. Apparently there's a number to call if you've been a victim. Yeah, I heard that like 12,000 people claimed or called in. So I think a lot of people are just going to call with their own fan fiction, and they're going to make up lurid stories about baby oil and promises of stardom. They're going to make up stuff. There's going to be a lot of fakery, a lot of Me Too-ism attached to this, because there's money in it. Like that guy Ryan Garcia. He's like, Me Too, Bohemian Grove, I was there. Okay, this has been great. I wish we had a bit more time, but we covered all the important details. I want to learn more about Monsters Ball. I'll take a look at that one. And just to reiterate this, because I think this is one of the more interesting connections, in addition to the stuff that the Rocket Man, the 6/11, the Moment of Silence, the stuff that JL called about, that stuff is incredible, and I'll be going through this again. But this is white noise. After a train derailment, Ohio residents are living the plot of a movie they helped make. So they make a movie in Ohio about a train derailing, and you have this big mushroom cloud, toxic airborne event. And the lead character is Adam Driver. So he's a witness to this nuke. He's a witness to the devastation. This is a connection again because East Palestine, Ohio had extras in this movie who were evacuated when it happened for real. Same actor is the face of Megaopolis, where he's a Trump proxy who gets a head wound in his right eye and is miraculously resurrected and healed. So every part of this story now connects. Butler, Pennsylvania is 42 miles from East Palestine. And this area has been highlighted by the Washington Examiner. They say it's the most important 42 miles in American politics between Pennsylvania, Butler, Pennsylvania, and Palestine, Ohio. So these are connections that are made in the news, right now in the political commentary, and they're connected by this actor and his connection to Trump. And these two events that are also parallel next to each other, the 6/11 and the 8/4 event. That's why it's significant that on 10/5, 84 days from his headshot, he says 6/11. Like he actually mentions that. And 6/11, the number, it's not insignificant. It's like 9/11, 6/11. These are significant. 6/11 is referencing the incoming 9/11 of America coming from the domestic violent extremists, the internal threat. Okay, well, have a great day. I'll send out archives. I'll catch up from yesterday. There's a lot going on and a lot more to come. Thank you for your comments and calls. This is Auto Hoaxology.
I don't live in truth or veil. Just because you saw it on the screen doesn't make it real. I don't take the red pill, I don't take the blue pill. I just choose to follow my dreams, auto hoax and chill. I stepped off the world stage and I moved away from all the fake outrage and the hearsay. And I don't give the time of day to those that naysay, because they got a bad case of the mind day. I stepped away from the game entirely. I won't be caught up in their lame dichotomy. I my mind's been set. By reading out of hoaxology, out of the control system finally. I know where to go if you follow me, 'cause I've been reading out of hoaxology. Nothing can bother me out of hoaxology. Won't put the screen before it's blasphemy. I won't become another mind war casualty. I came up out the realm of possibility to take the helm of this reality. 'Cause I've been chillin', reading out of hoaxology, rejecting all the expectations of the auto-believer, to become a new creation on the raft of receivers. Standing on the sword of truth, I stab the backs of deceivers, demanding burdens further proof from all the hacks and believers. I stepped away from the game entirely. I won't be caught up in the lame dichotomy. I stepped away from the cage entirely. I'm free today and my mind's been set by reading auto hoaxology, out of the control system finally. I know where to go if you follow me, 'cause I've been reading auto hoaxology. Nothing can bother me, auto hoaxology. Won't put the screen before it's blasphemy. I won't become another mind war casualty. I came up out the realm of possibility to take the helm of this reality. 'Cause I've been chillin', reading out of hoaxology, suspending all the judgment. You won't get a reaction. Won't defend it, I won't budge until I get all the facts in. I won't argue with the bots